Creative Katie, Karen Burchill. Today we are working on card 51 and the prompt is swim. So I instantly went to the quote, just keep swimming. Links to any supplies used can be found in the description box. Hit the subscribe button and select the option to get notified of when a new video is uploaded. So I am doing a brayered background here. Instead of going to my stash, I want to create a background. And I am just using the brayer to apply paint vertically and horizontally, turning the page periodically here. And you've seen me doing this on a video, I think number 47. It was the same actual session. So you just apply whatever colors that you want, and that could be 2, 4 colors. However, usually I add some kind of metallic in there at some point in time because, oh, it's me and I love the shimmer. So here I know I want an underwater kind of scene, so I'm using aquas and blues in different shades as well as white. And you simply keep going, adding more and more layers of color until you like where you are, and that's where you decide to stop. So, you know, over there I have all my Americana paints, and I have some Liquitex Basics. You can mix them. Each give a little bit of a different mark. Depending how thickly you put it on, you're going to get different patterns on the paper. And that's one of the joys of using the brayer to color the papers. I had created, when I did my mixed media technique tag video on Brayered Background, I had created a blue background very similar to what I'm going to try to recreate here. And I really, really loved how it all worked out. So, and I knew I wanted it for this background for this card. Because it's very under the sea kind of thing. Now I'm cleaning up the paint. Typically you wouldn't have to, and I hadn't up until now, but I want to go, I'm moving to white, and I want to make sure my white stays as white as possible. So I clean off the brayer, and you can see I didn't do a great job. So you're just adding that color and adding layers. When I do jelly printing, the brayered off pieces where I'm getting rid of the paint are some of my favorite ones. And here I'm adding some metallic. This is the Pebeo Dyna blue-green iridescent medium. And they just add a very different look. It's quite addictive. It's like, when do you know when to stop? Because I'm putting darks, then I'm putting lights, then I'm putting, and you just keep going. And it's really important that you turn the page and you go horizontally and vertically. So now that that is completely dry, and there's lots of layers of paint, so it does take a fair bit, I grab out these 2 stencils. This is, the top one is the Prima Elementals stencil, I think it's called Bubbles, and the other one is Tiny Dots, and it's a crafter's workshop. And the top one is Donna Downey Bubbles stencil. And they're all just different and unique, and I love all of them. And since I'm kind of going under the sea. So I'm using my blue Dilutions paint here through this Tiny Dot stencil. And I'm using the felt applicators. Using those felt applicators from Rangers are one of my favorite ways of stenciling. I find I have the most success with it. So if you struggle with makeup sponges or stencil brushes or whatever, maybe give that a try. And I'm putting this one horizontally and vertically. And now I'm using the white dilutions, and I chose the white dilutions paint more so than my Liquitex Basics because it is very translucent. You will see the color. Unless you add more and more layers to it, it's not going to block out all the color. And I kind of wanted that effect. And I'm not being overly careful here, making sure that everything is covered in. I want each bubble to look darker, lighter, more opaque, less opaque as, you know, as it happens. And I'm kind of avoiding that middle big bubble in the middle because I want more little bubbles in there. So moving right along, I grab the Prima stencil here, and we're just getting layers of bubbles on top of layers of bubbles on top of layers of bubbles. And I'm using the Pebeo Dyna, the blue-green iridescent medium. And you don't really see a lot of that on camera, but it just really adds a lovely touch. They're very transparent, translucent. I keep mixing those up. But when you tilt the page, you just have that iridescent come to the foreground. Lovely. So you can see a little bit of that. And then I decide, you know what, I have another metallic in, they say the color is cobalt blue, but I think it's a teal color. It's a Artist Loft, Michael's brand. And it's a little bit darker. And I really want it to bring out that darker teal. Now, if you don't have metallics, what you can buy is just iridescent medium. And you can buy like the Artist Loft brand. You don't have to buy Golden or Liquitex. And you can add that to any color of acrylic paint and make it metallic. Short of that, you can also add silver paint. I will link to a video that I did quite a while ago where I show how you can pretty much make every color in your toolbox metallic or iridescent. So now I'm just grab some lids off of things in and around me. I have a bucket of these somewhere, but I was too lazy to get up and go get it, and I'm doing it in blue and a larger scale. And then I'm doing some small ones. And some of the circles aren't exactly perfectly, I don't get a perfect print, and I'm okay with that. It's not the goal. Just adding more and more layers. Now I could have created this page right on an art journal page. I just find that it's harder to brayer onto a background. But adding the stenciling in the layers and adding using the mark making tools here, that could be done on a color background that you create right in your art journal page or right onto an ICAD. So there you can see some of that iridescent Dyna stuff, paint stuff, close-ups. So I have this whole page and I'm using a small portion of it. So I will have some of this to use for ATCs or other tags, or for creating some embellishments and collaging on full-size art journal pages. So there's the one that I did, the past video, and I think that's number 47 if you haven't seen it. And I just glued that on with a jelly print. And I have the quote, "Just keep swimming." And I did this in a font called Henny Penny. And I'm not sure if this is one that I purchased on Silhouette or if it was a free font off defont.com. But I love it. It's nice and bold, and it's not all on a straight level, so it's kind of fun and funky, and I really like that. So I decided, since I did the fish on that other one, that I am going to use this sea turtle. And this was a free printable that I sized for the ICAD. Now, before I am applying color this time, I decided that I am going to put a coat of gel medium. And that's just going to kind of seal the paper and give me a nice surface on which to put color. It'll also maybe prevent the paper from pilling. Sometimes I find when I add the color, it pills so quickly with the water because it's not watercolor paper. So I'm looking at the colors here, and I'm looking at the magazine cutout of a sea turtle, and I'm just pulling greens and blues and yellows that I have. So it's so handy to have your colors that you have in the different color mediums swatched. And I'm just checking again what color that is. So then I'm just using my Inkense pencils. You could use your blocks as well. You do not need to have both. I kind of wish I didn't. I bought the pencils first, but I found I tended to use them more by using the brush on the tip, so I quickly got the blocks. So if you get a good deal on the blocks, like I did, and I think at the time of me making this video, there's a fairly decent video or sale of them on Amazon. And I'll put the link to that. But always check the prices because things change. Prices don't always stay the same. So I'm trying to recreate the pattern that I see in this picture. So if you're not sure what color to paint something, coloring isn't something I do a whole lot of. Probably done more of it on these ICADs than I ever have. So go and find something online and use that as your inspiration. And then just play with your colors. And then I decide, and I have to thank somebody in my Facebook group, and I'm sorry, I don't remember who did it, but they activated their Inkense pencils or blocks with gel medium. And I've done that recently with my distress crayons, because I saw somebody doing that in a video, and this totally works because it gives it kind of that coating, and it gives it a different texture, and you can build layers. You kind of build some translucence in there. So I'm just adding the blues and the greens and the yellows till I get the color that I see in the picture. And I'm just building up layers. Using the gel medium before I started coloring really totally worked to seal the paper. There was no pilling at all, and the paper, became quite substantial and was easy to work on. Don't have Inkense blocks, you can use Neocolor 2s, watercolor crayons, distress crayons, gelatos, acrylic paints. I mean, this is what I'm choosing to work on right now. Love my Inkense blocks and my crayons. They are so completely versatile. please check out my playlist of, I think I have 7 videos of all the uses of these wonderful color mediums. I think they're very underused in the mixed media world. I'm going around it with the black and just kind of just adding some depth. And I'm doing this before I glue it down because I thought maybe it'd be easier. And there's my picture. Still hasn't made it onto an ATC, or an ICAD, but I toy with the idea of kind of making him kind of 3D and putting some pop dots underneath him, and then I decide not to. But if you were putting him on a card and you wanted that, that was definitely something you can do. And just using my gel medium. Now the Inkense pencils and blocks are ink. They are said to be permanent once dry, but I never, especially since I'm not giving it a whole lot of dry time, I always am careful when I'm applying any wet medium onto anything other than acrylics because it can reactivate. It's just easier to be cautious. I'm using my blue Inkense pencil that I use on the sea turtle, and I'm just pushing it around the edge and just activating it. And I get a depth of darkness with this that I think is dark enough, and I really like it. And with the texture from the Brayered background, it kind of flows in a little bit, and I like that effect as well. I decided to do a little bit of shading underneath the sea turtle on the paper just to give him a little bit of shadow. That's not something I do a lot of, I kind of follow my instincts when I'm doing that rather than any formalized training. I'm really happy with how this card turned out. I think I definitely will be printing off more free printables and, coloring them and having them ready in my stash. Thank you for joining me, and we'll see you for the next index card a day. Enjoy the pictures of the Brayered background that was also stenciled on and stamped on, and close-ups. Love that. Isn't he cute?